Hello Gemini, and welcome to your new moon lunar cycle insight video, which will run from the beginning of December, the new moon in Sagittarius on the 7th, and culminate as we head into 2019 with the new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn on the 6th of January. So this is a relatively quiet month compared to the ones that we've been experiencing recently. It's really time for us to recalibrate after those huge shifts that we experienced in November with Jupiter changing signs and the nodes changing signs. So really we're looking at this month, Mercury, your ruler, and Venus coming out of their respective shadows, and the winter solstice, you know, the time of stillness, the time of darkness for those of us here in the northern hemisphere, and the time of Letha, the time of the fullness of summer for those of you in the southern hemisphere. So we begin this month with, on the 1st of December, Mercury backtracking from your 7th house back into your 6th, into the final degrees of Scorpio. And on the 2nd of December, Venus also comes back into Scorpio after rebirthing herself in your 5th house of fun and joy and pleasure and creativity. Last month she now comes back into that 6th house alongside Mercury. They're kind of bookending the sign of Scorpio in early December as we head to the Sagittarius New Moon. I'm actually recording these videos and the moon's in Scorpio as well. So we've got these planets kind of gathering in the 6th house of your birth chart, Gemini, which is the house of purification, of organization, of restructuring, of recalibrating, the core aspects that keep our life running smoothly, ticking over. It can be regarded as one of the more mundane houses of the birth chart, but really without this house, without the 6th house and the Virgo energy, nothing would get done, because it shows us how to structure our life in a way that supports our big visions and our big dreams. So this can be a time when you're thinking about your daily routines and where you're spending your energy on a day-to-day basis, and if the energy that you are giving out is being returned to you in equal proportion. When we're looking at Scorpio, we're looking at the sharing of resources energetically, sexually, emotionally, financially. So this can be a time when you are working out how to create that balance for yourself, Gemini. It's also the house of health and healing and purification. So this can be a time when we are letting go of self-destructive, self-limiting, self-sabotaging patterns, and we're looking at the deeper meaning behind why we behave the way we do, why we have these addictions, or why we have these programs that keep running and keep creating the same experiences for us. So we're looking at how we can, shed the things that block our pathway, that block our understanding of receiving deeper meaning in our lives. So Mercury here in the final degrees of Scorpio, and later Venus as we head further into the month, will be creating a grand trine to your 2nd house, the North Node in Cancer in your 2nd house, and Chiron in Pisces in your 11th house. So the changes that you're making, the psychological changes, the emotional changes, will greatly affect your ability to create abundance, to create purpose, to create reputation and financial stability in your life. So it's really important that you keep weeding out, keep detoxifying on every level, keep letting go as these planets move through the 6th house. Venus will be moving out of her retrograde shadow on the 17th of December, and she will be heading into Sagittarius in the new year, Mercury will be leaving this house and crossing back over into your 7th house, where he has been for the past few weeks encouraging you to work through communication issues in your partnerships. You know, we talked about this a lot last month, with Mercury helping you find the balance of truth between yourself and another. And he will move back through this space of your birth chart from the 12th of December. He will leave his shadow on Christmas Day, and he will finally exit and move into the 8th house on the 4th of January. So if there's been any communication issues, any misunderstandings between yourself and your loved ones, your associates, your business partners, your romantic partners, then it can start to be cleared up as Mercury retraces his steps. And we'll notice a big shift around Christmas time, towards the end of December here. So we're working with these energies throughout the month, and we're also working with the 7th house. We know that Jupiter moved here last month. We talked about in depth in the last video. And at the moment, as we approach the winter solstice, we also have the sun here. Like I said, Mercury's been retrograde here. And we have the new moon here on the 7th of December, the day after Mercury stations. So we've got a lot going on in this space of your birth chart right now. And as I said in the previous video, this is the space where we meet ourselves through connection with the other. This is the Libra house, the house that seeks harmony, the house that seeks balance. So perhaps you're really looking at this time as well as about your work-life balance, Gemini, as we kind of have this activation of the 6th and the 7th. We're looking at how our relationships affect our work and how our work affects our relationships. And we're looking really at creating partnerships that are deeply authentic and beneficial to both parties. The full moon in your sign last month really highlighted that axis of self versus other, and may have uncovered some ways that you were being pulled out of alignment with yourself through others. So this is an ongoing journey for you, really, Gemini, as Jupiter moves through this part of your birth chart until next December. So we're looking at expansion, at teaching, at learning through other people. It's a time for collaboration, for cooperation, particularly a beneficial time for coming together in spiritual groups, in spiritual communities, workshops, endeavours where we are co-creating for the highest good of all with others. And the new moon gives you a kind of cosmic reset to set your intentions around what you wish to manifest in these areas over the coming 12 months and in all of your relationships. So this is a time for honouring that balance, honouring that need for connectivity, particularly as the sun will move into your 8th house on the winter solstice. So on the 21st of December, the sun leaves Sagittarius. Jupiter will remain here. Like I said, Mercury will remain here until January next year. But the sun comes to join Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node in your 8th house. So we've talked about this a lot as well, Gemini. This 8th house is the main focus of your learning at this time, as these, you know, very intense planetary energies, these very karmic planetary energies move through this space. And now we have Jupiter in the 7th as well. There's a huge journey for you around love and intimacy at this time. So as the sun comes into this space of our birth chart every year, for you, Gemini, it is a time of shedding, a time of letting go. We're going back into those scorpionic energies. We are doing the walk into the underworld, shedding the layers of fear, shedding the old attachments that no longer serve, in order for us to rebirth ourselves in the new year. So this year, obviously the sun's going to collide with Saturn. He's going to collide with Pluto. There's going to be an eclipse here in early January. So this is really a point of focus, this sharing of resources, this sharing of energy, this focus on alchemy through intimacy. This is really the affirmation for you at this time, Gemini. Alchemy through intimacy. And it's an interesting one because you are one of the more autonomous signs, Gemini, and this energy of the 8th house demands, and in Capricorn as well, demands commitment and discipline and focus. So we may have this push-pull of, oh, you know, I want to go into Sagittarius, I want to be free, but really I know I can't learn anything about relationships or about resources and finances unless I commit to something. So we can find ourselves looking into the shadows, doing some deep psychological work and weeding out around this period as well. And this is further illuminated by the full moon in Cancer, which falls the day after winter solstice this year in your 2nd house. And the 2nd house, 8th house axis is all about love and resources. So again, it's that illumination of how much do I value myself? How much do I value my time and energy? Am I being adequately compensated for the effort that I am putting into my relationships, that I am putting into my work? Am I truly receiving what I believe I'm worth? And if not, there may be some things that you have to let go of. The transits that you're having in the 8th house at this time can be like a continual death and rebirth process. Something comes up, we let it go, we transform it, we alchemize it, we rebirth ourselves, and on the cycle goes when we work with these Scorpio energies. So you're getting really intimate with this process during these long-term transits that you're having. And the full moon can illuminate just how far you've come. We can also be looking at issues of vulnerability here when we look at the 8th house and the moon in this kind of deeply emotional sign of Cancer, this deeply sensitive sign. So I can only create intimacy and connection if I allow myself to be vulnerable. So it's about how safe do we feel to truly open up to people. Perhaps our fear of commitment is rooted in our fear of being vulnerable. So there are multi-layers that we can look at during this time. But really we are, over this lunar cycle, working with these 3 houses, Gemini. The 6th house of day-to-day routines, work, organisation, health, purification. The 7th house of partnership, and the 8th house of intimacy. So this can also be a time when new opportunity can come through other people, Gemini. This can be a time when new connections, new relationships can form. We've been doing our clearing out. We've been doing our recalibrating. We've discovered what has meaning for us and what relationship means to us, what it means for us to be in partnership with another person, what it means for us to be intimate, because everyone's definition will be different. And now we've done this deep inner work, we can start to see some things beginning to manifest, particularly, as I say, as Venus leaves her shadow and comes into your relationship house, which will be the 7th of January. So it's that push-pull of, okay, I'm still doing a bit of deep diving in the 8th house, but also there's this sense of expansion and newness. So strike the balance, Gemini, which you're so good at doing. You're so good at seeing oppositions and bringing them together into understanding. You are the master of paradox. So if anyone can do it, you can. So we're going to head into 2019 with with Mars, the ruler of Aries, blazing into his home sign, which is your 11th house. Your 11th house is ruled by Aries. Mars is going to be journeying through here for the next 8 weeks. He's going to be trining those planets in Sagittarius. So we have a really fiery start to the new year. Venus, Jupiter in Sag, Mars coming into Aries, illuminating your 8th and 7th houses, creating a beautiful trine. So this can be a time when you feel really fired up about those collaborative ventures. You feel really fired up about your purpose and how you can manifest it into the world. So things seem to be moving slowly, much slower than you would like, I'm sure. Then hold fast, because we have this period of stillness over winter. But as we move into 2019, we really get this boost of fire, another boost of inspiration, because we've had Jupiter going into Sagittarius, but at the same time we've had Mercury retrograde there. So the ideas have been coming in, but it's difficult to actualize them. It's difficult to see clearly. We've been dealing with a lot of Neptune fog, and we will continue to be doing so throughout December. But as January comes, things clear, things start to light up. So as we move forward, we can then start to think about the grounding and the anchoring and the taking action. We're going to close this lunar cycle with a new moon in Capricorn in that 8th house of intimacy, and this will also be a solar eclipse, our first eclipse on the Cancer Capricorn axis since the node shifted, and our first new moon of the year. So that will be a really powerful time to anchor your intentions around the scorpionic themes of love, intimacy and power. Because in that 8th house, not only do we go through crisis, not only do we go through deep soul change, but we also find our power. We dive in and we recollect those parts of ourselves that we've given away, those things that we've buried, those things that we've hidden. So this is a good time for you to really call back those lost fragments of self, as well as things arise to be seen and looked at. And this month, because we're working with Scorpio, I am using the tarot deck for a change. This is the Glastonbury Tarot by Lisa Tenzin-Dolmer, and I think they're out of print pretty much now, but they're very beautiful. They have all of the pictures of Glastonbury on them. There's the Tor, the Tower, the Phoenix, very 8th house, the Guinevere, the Empress. So we're going to pick one of these for you for December. And this is really interesting. The Four of Versailles, Vesicas they say here, in this deck, but traditionally would be the Four of Pentacles in a tarot deck. And the meaning of this card is integrity. So this is very interesting because the Sagittarius energy that we're dealing with is all about morality. It's all about integrity. So it's about acting from a place of what you feel is true, what you feel is right. And of course, you know, we have treating others as you would wish to be treated as well. So we're really looking at acting from a place of knowing what we really want and then being honest about it with ourselves and with other people. This can also be a card of grounding, of anchoring. It's a Four and an Earth card, so it's about stability. So this can be just about you thinking about, when we move into the Capricorn season in particular, this could be a Capricornian card of what, and the 6th house that you're working with as well actually, what are the roots, what are the foundations that I am laying at this time? Am I grounding things solidly? Are they going to be strong enough for me to really build on? Are the relationships that I'm in really solid and secure? Do I feel safe? Do I feel safe to be vulnerable, like we said earlier? Are the visions, the dreams that I'm building, are they rooted in this structure? There's this real theme of kind of what is fantasy and what is reality that's happening in the cosmos at the moment, because the planets in Sagittarius and the new moon are square to Gemini, square to Neptune in Pisces, which is your 10th house. So this can particularly relate to relationships and work for you, Gemini. But are the things that I'm being offered, are the people that are coming to me really as they seem? So it's something to think on. We have to really make sure we are not looking through rose-tinted glasses and seeing things as they actually are at this time as well, Gemini. So that's a little extra insight for you. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you wish to connect with me further, you can click the links below this video for my Facebook pages and groups. I am wishing you a blessed solstice, wherever you are, whether you're celebrating Yule in the Northern Hemisphere or Litha in the Southern Hemisphere. Have a beautiful, restful and replenishing time.